Southwestern family of companies welcomes you to the Action Catalyst. With each episode, our diverse and amazingly accomplished guests share their insights and inspirations to help us ignite our own. So let's invest attention, together, to breathe, to reflect, and refocus, and decisively defeat that voice that we call Mr. Mediocrity. Then let's enjoy moving forward to make a positive difference in our world.
Lieutenant Colonel Waldo Waldman, often referred to as the Wingman. He's a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author. He is a speaker, but really his background was he was a decorated F-16 fighter pilot, 2,650 flight hours, 65 combat missions, just an amazing guy. So Waldo, welcome to the show.
Awesome to be flying with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So can you tell us about the F-16? How did you become a pilot? Why did you become a pilot? How did that all happen?
For me, it's all about excitement. I smelled the smell of JP4 jet fuel when I was a kid. My dad was a mechanic at Kennedy Airport in New York City. I saw those floating birds and I was hooked. In a heartbeat, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And I crafted my life, my work ethic, my focus around that goal. As you know, when we have goals, when we're passionate, we're willing to do the hard work necessary to be a pilot. So the bottom line is it's not easy to do. And as you'll soon discover, and I think I may have shared this with you before, I had a massive fear of heights, which was a big deal when you're flying planes.
And claustrophobia.
So I've always had challenges with small spaces, but it never affected me. In POW training, just as unclassified as I can get, you're stuck into a very small space. I didn't enjoy it. Most of us don't. But 3 years into my 11-year active duty flying career, almost 3,000 hours, I almost died in a scuba diving accident around 40 feet under the water. My mask malfunctioned. I had a panic attack. It was the worst experience of my life. Let's leave it at that. And I said, I'm never doing that again. And sure enough, 3 days later, I'm flying through the weather. Couldn't see the sun, couldn't see the ground. I'm in this, what's called the soup, just locked in. And essentially I have the same panic attack that I had a few days prior. But instead of being 40,000 or 40 feet under the water, now I'm 30, 40,000 feet in the air. Realized I had claustrophobia, and that shifted everything for me from living with flying and enjoying it to having to challenge myself every single time I strapped into that plane to fly.
So how did you get over that?
So here I am, I want to fly more than anything. I love the thrill. I love, flying jets was the coolest thing in the world. But then I had this mental issue, this psychological claustrophobia, manic issue that I was dealing with the whole time. And I can spend probably 5 hours talking with you just about this issue and how I overcame it. But there are three things. You have to, number one, love what you do. You have to enjoy the thrill. I call it, your passion has to be greater than your fear. So when I strapped in to fly every day, I loved the thrill, the excitement, the energy, the challenge, the competition. That environment got me alive. And if what you do as an entrepreneur, whatever it is, doesn't get you alive, doesn't get you out of bed, never mind what keeps you up, it doesn't get you out of bed and excite you, abort immediately. That was critical. The second thing that allowed me to do it, not quit and play it safe, because I could have quit and played it safe and then eventually told my son, who's now 6 years old, hey, guess what? Your dad had a dream to fly F-16s, and as soon as things got tough, he quit. Life is about breaking through those challenges. So I loved it. And then I was manically prepared. Every time I flew, I knew the mission. I knew the tactics, the procedures. I asked the what ifs. What if I had these issues or panic attacks? What's the nearest fields? Am I confident in my skills? Am I mentally ready? Am I physically ready? Physical fitness, sleep, not doing, not going out drinking like a lot of the dudes were. Nothing against my fighter pilot buddies, but we're all big drinkers. Most military guys and gals are. But I said no to the crap that was out there, and I got focused on myself, my mind. I needed to be present, because as soon as you're tired, as soon as you don't get enough sleep, as soon as you're not fit, that phobia, those issues and depression challenges are going to come and shoot you down. So that was another big thing that allowed me to not fail. And the last thing was the fact that I had wingmen who were flying with me. Great men and women who, when I looked to my left and right, they would be there for me when I called out for help. So having those folks with me and knowing they needed me, as soon as you realize other people need you, when I was going in combat, man, if I quit, these folks would be at a disadvantage. So it was a little bit of peer pressure. It was a focus on responsibility that these folks needed me. So when we realize other people in our life need us, we find meaning in our mission and we don't quit when the going gets tough. People in your life depend on you. And that's that whole Wingman philosophy that I wrote my book on. I like to be there for people. I am not going to let my fear stop me from going out there, kicking butt and doing what I need to do to help people kick butt in their life.
So I want to talk to you about the wingman concept. How does that apply to real life? Where do you find a wingman? How do you interact? What are some of the characteristics of a sort of a good wingman, if you will?
Got it. Well, let me tell you what a wingman isn't. It's not necessarily your buddy, although they could be one. It's not necessarily a mentor, although ideally they should be one. It's not even your spouse or your best friend, although they all could be one. It's somebody who you feel comfortable going to for help and confident in their ability to help you. And many times that helping hand is going to come as a proverbial slap across the face. Somebody telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Somebody who loves you enough, who cares about you enough to tick you off, to humble you. That's what a wingman is. A wingman is not your buddy. Although, once again, they ideally should be. My best friends are the ones who embarrass me, who call my bluff, who say, Waldo, you could do better than that. What are you thinking? And make me think to myself, man, I know I could be better. And many times, folks in our lives call each other wingmen, but allow their partner to play it safe, to potentially take the easy way out. So in my life, in everybody's life, I think we need to create those relationships with people who are truly going to speak the truth to us. Be it in a mastermind group, in a relationship. Those are the type of folks that I flew with. Those are the type of men and women who, man, I would go to battle with, who had my back, who looked out for me, and who cross-checked my 6 o'clock, my blind spot, which I'd be happy to share with you. So that's really the context. It's important.
So that's what I was going to ask. So you talk about that phrase, check 6.
So very important concept. And folks, if you can imagine, if you're sitting down in your car listening to the podcast or in the gym or whatever, or at your office, if you're sitting in a chair and you simulate that being the cockpit, you're strapped in, barely able to move, with helmet and mask on in this tiny little F-16 cockpit, you can see 12 o'clock, which is straight out front, 3 o'clock, which is to your right, left, 9 o'clock. Pretty easy. You can look out. But the most vulnerable position is behind you. That's the 6 o'clock position. And you cannot see that position on your own. It's almost impossible in that tiny little cockpit. But if you have a wingman at your right, 3 o'clock, or left, 9 o'clock, maybe 600 yards or a mile or two away, they can look over your 6 o'clock for the threat, for the missiles, for the enemy. That's where they're coming. Normally not where you can see them. They're sneaking up on you. They can see your 6 and you can see theirs. This concept of mutual support, of checking each other's 6, thinking outside your cockpit is the key to building symbiotic, partnerships and relationships. And I think in life, we need folks and nurture relationships with people who are going to see those blind spots for us, bring unique insights, skill sets, call out things to us that we may not see as we are strapped into our jet, often channelized and uber focused on one specific thing. And so a good wingman calls those potential missiles out to you and tells you to take action. And another big part of a wingman relationship is that you do take action and you don't doubt what your wingman's telling you, especially when you can't see that potential threat.
Yeah, there's this whole trust element working together to sort of move through fear. I mean, because you're in combat. I mean, you're going up in the plane, there's some chance that you may not be coming back.
Without a doubt. Goes back to what I was saying before, flying fighters for me wasn't just about the missiles and the stress and the possibility of dying. It was dealing with that claustrophobia, the panic attacks, etc., which never truly impacted my ability to execute, by the way. I still was able to execute. And if you're out there in a position, and this is important, folks, if you're out there in a position where you're going to be a hindrance, a safety hindrance, a harm to your team, then you have to have the courage to quit and just not impact that. You can't be in something, especially if you're in a business and it's hurting your life, hurting your relationships, and you're not able to execute on that because of certain fears, and you're literally physically hurting yourself or others, you got to not do that. You got to quit. And I had every right to do that when I was a pilot, but I was still able to break through the fear. Here's the point. We're all going to have those issues and challenges. I don't believe in this concept of fearlessness. It's cool to, as a title of a book, Fearless Leader or a concept, but fear is human. It reminds us that we can fail. It reminds us that we must prepare even more, that wingmen never wing it. If you want to be a top gun in life, you just can't go out there and wing it. You need to put in the work. So my work ethic, our ability to put in the time and sacrifice to be confident if the missile comes, if the panic comes, to still execute on them is so critical. So I make no bones about the fact that our work ethic, our ability to execute and put in the time is that your most important asset other than your passion. It's got to be both. I'd much rather fly with somebody who was prepared and ready to go. They may not be Mr. or Mrs. Excitement, right? But you just knew they had your back. They knew the tactics, but I'd rather fly with them over somebody that I liked, I enjoyed hanging out with, have a beer with, have played ball or whatever. That's not how it is. In life, find somebody who's tactically competent, who has the skill set. Hopefully it's aligned with their passion and their personality. So that's one major thing. And it goes back also in alignment with knowing when you know that you're not going at it alone. When you know somebody's going to have your back, that they're truly out there to support you, to encourage you, to help you if those missiles or flame outs in life come, it dissipates the fear. It doesn't remove it. Knowing when I flew that there were men and women with me, my wingmen, I was like, that's awesome, man. I'm not doing this by myself. It gave me courage. So important. So when you're thinking about the challenges in your life, know that there are folks out there who could potentially help you. And that means many times that you have to seek them out.
I know the preparation is pretty critical. I mean, just give us an idea of what the preparation is like.
Number one, we brief the mission. We know exactly the target, the tactics, the tools we're going to have before we step out and fly. We set the time and we make sure we understand our technology, which was constantly changing, but things aren't going to go perfectly. And I always say, plan for the worst, but then expect the best. Don't expect the worst. Expect the best. Expect because you planned for the worst, you were able to go out there. That builds confidence and creates a sense of joy in what you do, right? If you're always worrying about the missiles, you can't really enjoy life. So we planned and briefed this mission, everybody aligned, and we also made sure that our tactics were relevant to that particular day, that particular target. What works at night doesn't work in the daytime. Low altitude, high altitude, Iraq, Kosovo, Afghanistan. Every environment requires unique tactics. It's about being maniacally relevant. And what we think about what we do in business or as an entrepreneur, a lot different than it was a few years ago. If you're flying a mission with a partner and they show up at that meeting, at that sales call with that client, and they're not prepared, you should be ticked off. So we have to be prepared and confident in our team, and that builds that trust that you mentioned before. That's what a wingman is, a trusted partner. So that's another thing. And the last thing that we do before we take off is we contingency plan. We ask, what if? Okay, we're flying together today. What if we have an engine failure? What are the nearest fields that we can land on, the airfields? What if a missile comes? What are the procedures? What are the tactics if somebody gets shot down, God forbid? Who's taking over? What are our plans? So we think about those what ifs, just as you got to think about the what ifs on a sales call, objections to price, a meeting. You can't make the meeting. You're in traffic. Do I have the person's cell phone? Right? Can I text them? Can I call them? Who's going to take over? So all those things that come into the preparation piece build confidence and build trust with your team. And most importantly, with the folks you're about to serve. When you show up and they see you're prepared, confident, you're not winging it, they're like, wow, there's something unique about this company, this person, this value proposition that makes me want to listen more and say yes.
Amen. So there's two other little concepts I want to ask you about. Lift and drag. Just really quickly, can you just walk us through that?
Yes. So lift and drag. So we all know, aircraft in order to fly, it's not an easy thing. You have the certain aerodynamic components. I was an engineer in college and then got my MBA. I love the soft skills a lot more than this techie stuff. But in order for a plane to fly, you must have lift, but there's also drag. Your lift has to exceed drag in order for a plane, any flying vehicle, to get airborne. And we use thrust as well to propel that aircraft through the air. Now, in an F-16, there's always things that are going to be dragging the plane down. You've got your gear. You have weapon systems, things hanging on the aircraft that are causing friction with the air. The thrust, the aerodynamics, the structure of the wings, etc., that helps that plane fly. But in life, when you think about your ability to fly, to reach quote unquote new heights, so, pardon the analogy and the pun here, but we in our life have to find ways to overcome the things that are potentially dragging us down. Our habits, our ability to procrastinate, our skill sets, our relationships, which often drag us down, right? Some of our own family members can drag us down. Some of the people in our life that we're quote unquote friends with can drag us down. Our habits, the things in life that challenge us, alcohol, whatever it is, to be a top gun, to be that trusted partner. You've got to work on that inner wingman to overcome those things that potentially drag you down and find what it is that you need to do to lift yourself up through your relationships, through your skill sets, right? The reading, the exercise, all those things that we have to do, often behind the scenes, by the way. Also, the people in your life, who are going to lift you up, to inspire you when you're having a bad day, when you're having a flame out. My best friends, man, when things are going tough, I pick up the phone and say the 3 most important words in life. And those are, I need help, mayday, mayday, right? So the best friends in my life, my wingmen, they're going to get me off my butt and say, Waldo, you can do this. I believe in you, and help turn that fear, that drag, into courage and thrust. So think about what you need to do in your life. And what do you need to say no to? What disciplines do you have to do to get rid of that drag, to lift yourself up? And also at the end of the day, who you can lift, who you can lend a wing to and lift up and encourage, because that's really what the whole point of being a wingman is. Yeah. If you want to find wingmen, be a wingman for other people, encourage and lift those folks up. Be that mentor, the coach that inspire in your organization or in your personal life where you really build those relationships. And that's what I like to do. That's the type of person I like to be.
The book is called Never Fly Solo. Where do you want people to go, Waldo, if you want them to learn more about you, get connected?
I'm going to give you my website, which is yourwingman.com. There's a ton of videos on there. And before I forget, I also want to give a gift to your folks, that you go to yourwingman.com/NFS, as in Never Fly Solo, Nancy Foxtrot Sierra, yourwingman.com/NFS. That'll take you to a page to get a free download of my audiobook, my New York Times or Wall Street Journal bestseller, Never Fly Solo. I'm going to give it to you guys and your listeners for free. If you put the password Wingman in there, you'll get a free link.
Free audiobook. So the last thing I just want to make sure that we leave everybody with is your sort of signature call to action is push it up.
Okay. So if we're flying in battle together, if we're ready to go, the pressure's there. The threat is there. The commitment is there. And by the way, this is all about commitment. Okay. Because commitment is only tested when the fun stops, right? When the challenge is there, when the missiles are coming. When we fly in battle, when we cross the FEBA, the forward edge of the battle area, and enter enemy territory, first thing that we do is we go master arm hot, meaning missiles are coming off that aircraft. God forbid we get shot at. Next thing we do is we say push it up, which means we're going to full power. We're executing the plan. We're going for it. There's no turning back. We are fully committed. So push it up for me. And what I want to get to your listeners is about ultimately taking action. It's about saying you've got wingmen who are on your team, who you appreciate, by the way, because there are many folks that aren't in your formation who are on the ground, the maintenance technicians, the intelligence officers, the folks turning the wrenches, filling the jet, who aren't necessarily flying in the jet with you, but are very important wingmen. Appreciate them. There's so many people in that formation who are executing with you. So push it up means your attitude is in action. It's time to go. And so the toughest thing in life is to push it up when you don't want to, when the pressure's there, when you're overwhelmed, when you know there's a potential to lose. And that's what winners do. Winners push it up, even though they know the enemy's there and they know they may lose. And that's the definition of a leader, of courage, of building a culture of accountability, of going for it. And I think we need to do that in our life, to say, you know what, life isn't going to be perfect every day. We're going to have challenges. We're going to have issues and phobias and missiles that come at us. But to push it up and break that fear barrier and execute, take the fight to the enemy, man, that's the definition of success. And that's how you grow. When you take that fear, turn it into courage and execute, that's where the lessons of life are. That's where character is honed, and that's where relationships are emblazoned in gold, right? So that's push it up.
Man, I love it. Well, thank you first and foremost, Lieutenant Colonel, for your service to our country. And it's an honor to have you here pouring into us.
Awesome. Hey, we don't need to wear uniforms to serve, right? We do it in our communities every day with our families, with our partners, our clients. And I always say, if we want to say thank you to the Americans who fight for our country, let's be the type of Americans worth fighting for. Let's wake up every day with honor and integrity and serve, knowing that we're contributing to the success of people. And that's how we can make a difference in the world. That's what it is. The gratitude, that's when we do that, life keeps coming at us at full speed and the missiles become minimized.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And thanks for listening.